Good evening, I'm your host Alvaro, and today we shall be interviewing the man himself, Mr. Rupert Brown. Mr. Rupert Brown.
Thank you.
So the first question would be, where did the idea for the DSP project come from?
Okay. Where the DSP started out was I was actually looking for a show like DSP. Like I got into podcasts, and I thought there must be one out there where I could find out about new gear and learn tutorials and sort of better myself through watching a show. And I had a look around and I couldn't really find anything that fits that description. There are some shows out there on recording, so like I quite like there's the home recording show, but those guys, it's a lot of talk about sort of microphones and preamps and the sort of tracking, recording part of music, whereas what I do as an electronic musician is mainly all inside the box, so inside the computer. So there wasn't really anything like that. So it was more me just going out and looking for something, and it wasn't there. I thought it seemed crazy that no one was doing it, so I thought I might as well do it.
That's a very good reason to do it, absolutely. And how much time would you say you spend on it a week? How much time goes into making one episode?
Well, to break it down, if I'm doing like a tutorial, it might be an hour to sort of sit down and think about what I want to do for an episode, then maybe another hour to sort of maybe give it a go and figure out what I'm going to do, an hour to record a screen, like the actual screencast for it, and then to record the kind of the video part of me introducing and outroing it. That's about another hour to record. You know, by the time I've set up all the lights and everything, recorded it, that's about another hour. Then edit. Then you've got to edit both the screencast and edit that video portion. That could be like another hour there. Then maybe upload. That's an hour, but obviously I'm not present for that. But still, that takes another hour. And then do the artwork, because there's like each episode has its own thumbnail and like preview image plus some text. So you're looking at around about maybe 7 hours, and it can be more than that. If it's like a review product, then I need to spend like at least maybe 4 hours, depending on the product, just playing with it to get a good feel, so I can give it sort of an honest judgment. So it's probably around about 7 hours a week.
Okay, so that's quite.
That's to do an episode, but then on top of that, you've got people's emails and people's comments and kind of everything that comes with that, and then talking to manufacturers to get stuff to review, and
So there's a whole lot of site management.
The site
product management involved there as well. Okay,
yeah,
so roughly maybe around 10 hours a week, maybe.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a person who does as much work as you do outside of the DSP project, that's quite something. So. And that brings me to my next question, which is what drives the motivation behind the DSP project? How do you get motivated to carry on when, say, your life as a producer, musician outside of the DSP project takes over?
Motivation. That's a very good question. I'm reminded of a genius quote, and I wish I knew who it was actually by. From a movie called A Waking Life. I don't know if you've seen it. It's basically it's a movie about lucid dreaming, and there's a scene in there, and I'm gonna butcher this and paraphrase, but basically the guy says, he proposes the question: what stops people from reaching their potential, or even a small percentage of what we're really capable of? Mm-hmm. And he says the answer to that question can be found in the answer to this next question, which is, which characteristic is most common in human beings, fear or laziness? And that had quite a profound impact on me, and it made me realize that I think that probably is the two biggest factors which hold us back as people, is either fear or laziness, or a combination of both. It is a combination of both. So,
or maybe one creating the other even.
Yeah, definitely. They feed into each other, but I sort of took that and realised that if I really want to make the most of my life, and as of course we all do, I realised that I can't let either of those two elements get in my way. So as far as being motivated, it's kind of, it's a lot to do with I don't want to let laziness get in the way of me achieving what I want to do with my life. And it's the same, the fear thing comes into it as well, because I mean it's quite, I'm not, as a personality, I'm not a particularly out there kind of guy, you know what I mean? So there's always insecurities about, am I going to be good enough to do this, and blah, 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 when I was first sort of starting out. But you've got to kind of just put that aside and do what you want to do.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of a roundabout way of answering the question.
Okay, great. Okay, and onto something else now. I know that you've been using Ableton Live for a very long time, and to be totally honest with you, when we first talked about it years ago, I didn't rate it very highly as a production tool. I could always recognise how it worked very well live, but your production has been getting better and better and better, and you still work mainly or almost exclusively on Ableton Live, although you dabble in all the other ones. Can you give us a 5-minute breakdown of Ableton Live basics? How does it allow you to produce if it's mainly a software which has been designed to kind of enable easy looping, if you will?
Okay, well, I mean, I think I'd start by saying people get too involved or carried away with the tools. Like I've heard amazing music made in Fruity Loops, for instance, FL Studio, but there's still, people have a general attitude that it's a bit of an amateurish kind of piece of software. And, you know, something that's maybe more renowned like Pro Tools or Logic, I've heard people produce absolute crap in those programs.
Absolutely.
So I think it's not, you know, not just the DAWs, but also the plugins and everything. Like it's very easy to get carried away and I need this piece of software to make my production sound that much better. But more and more I realize it's about the bum in the seat far more than it is about the software.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, just talking about how, you know, you're saying about you maybe thought you couldn't achieve a certain level with a certain software. And it's the same on multiple levels. It's like the Mac PC thing. Some people say you can't make music great music on a PC, which is rubbish. Of course you can. You can PC, Mac, whatever works for you, you know. So that's kind of the first sort of thing you're talking about as far as, you know, quality is concerned. As far as a rundown on Ableton, I mean, it can work. The nice thing about Ableton is it can work as a linear sequence piece of software, like Logic or Pro Tools or anything else like that, or just a multi-track recorder. So it has kind of a reputation as being an electronic-based, you know, system that's just for people doing drum and bass or whatever. But the fact is, you can multi-track a band or do like normal kind of audio recording in it, and it can function like a normal thing. But the nice part about it is you've got sort of two modes, and you can flick it into the session mode where you can then enter in little clips. And so those little clips can be just little loops, or they can be, you know, a complete recording of a vocal, whatever. And it allows you, because it understands the timing of everything, you can jump between all different parts of all different songs, and everything's in time. So that's the part that gives you the flexibility to sort of jam, as you will. I mean, I think it probably is the closest thing I've found to turning your computer into a real instrument. And so what's nice is then you can then record that and have like a jam and just play random clips and then go back through that performance and then tweak every little thing or take bits that you like, and sort of, or apply filters or go over it. And so you can really, you know, reproduce that kind of jam and do whatever you want with it. And you have every little knob tweak and clip launch, everything that you did in that session is all kind of recorded. So it's really nice, and that flexibility of you can do it, like I say, as a linear thing or as a performance thing, or then record that performance and tweak that back into a complete track. I was rambling a bit. I hope that makes sense. Great.
Yeah, no, that's a very. I think probably one of the best things to get from that has less to do with Ableton Live and just to do with people's perception of tools and how really the most important thing is the person manipulating the tool rather than the tool itself. I mean, someone like Fatboy Slim has a very, very basic, quite old-fashioned setup. I'm not sure if he's still using it, but the last time I sort of had a look in his studio via a magazine, I was pretty shocked to see how old-fashioned the gear that he was using was, and and Pharrell was bigging up a keyboard he's had since 1991 the other day in an interview. So yeah,
if it works, then it works. Yeah. That's the bottom line. It doesn't need to be new and shiny to do the job.
Okay, and my last question for you tonight is going to be: so what changes have you made in the last 2 years to make your productions sound so much better? List 3 things or 3 elements.
So my productions are better. Thank you, Al. That's very nice.
They're sounding much better. His productions are sounding way better than they used to.
What has increased the quality? The old how to make it sound better question. I think I could attribute it down to a couple things. Two big things that have changed for me as a person, whatever. One part of it was I started working for a company called Cornflake, who are basically renowned as one of London's great hi-fi shops. They've been around for 25 years. They're moving more into systems integration, but anyway, the point being that some of the demo facilities and the setups there are like 100 grand's worth of audio, so very high-end music. And I would listen to music that that had been properly produced and think, yeah, this sounds amazing. And then I put something on that I'd produced, and it just sounded so small and flat in comparison, if I'm honest. And the thing is, as I was sort of previously producing mainly drum and bass, and so what I was concerned with was complicated drum edits and making sure that there was a lot of power in the bass, and that stuff that translates very well on like a PA system in a club, because it's usually all mono anyway. But what I wasn't really taking consideration was sort of width of music and kind of depth, this kind of 3D aspect that you can get from music that has a nice amount of kind of dynamics about it. And so it sort of really took a very good system for me to really hear and lock on to what I had been missing out on. So that was kind of a factor. And then another part of it was a couple of years back, since coming to London, I've decided that I really want to be a full-time mastering engineer. So I've started doing a few bits and bobs for guys I knew, and everybody liked the results, and I've had people refer, and so I've had a bit of work coming through now, so which is really nice. And as part of wanting to do that, the guys at Fluid Mastering have let me sort of basically go down there and do some experience with them. And so I've been learning a lot about sort of critical listening and picking out the little nasty frequencies and really listening for compression and just lots of little things. So it's more than it is about any particular tool or technique that I've learned. It's really been more the development of my critical listening over the last sort of 3 or 4 years has sort of dramatically improved by having access to these sort of phenomenal detailed playback systems, and having to sort of judge things and review things as well. It really makes you work on picking out the fine differences between things. So I think if anything, that's probably what's been pushed me forward to make music that sounds better. So listening back to some of my old stuff, I'm like, oh, yeah,
So being able to hear things much more clearly has not only helped your ears grow, but has also affected your attitude when it came to actually finishing a product, because you knew that what you were after was
just knowing how much better it could be.
Yeah,
I guess.
Sure. Could you give us maybe another couple of important points? What's really helped? What's different about the Rupert Brown making or mixing or mastering music these days compared to the person who did it 3 years ago? More
things. Okay. Well, I mean, my own setup has improved as far as the conversion and the monitors and the acoustic treatment. All that stuff. That stuff I've improved on, and that's very important to be able to sort of truly hear what's going on. Like I did some early mastering on sort of fairly substandard gear, and I go back now and I can really hear it, and it's these kind of mistakes that you learn from as you go along the way. So there's those things. I think there's also, I make more make more an effort to make sure every specific layer inside of a tune is serving a purpose. So previously, where I might have like a drum beat and it doesn't quite sound, you know, aggressive enough or doesn't have enough energy, then I might just slap another drum loop behind it, sort of, you know, put something else in, and then maybe together, then yeah, that sounds good enough. Whereas now, if something's not working, then I'll either work on it until it works, or I get rid of it and then start with something else. So my track counts have probably come down like a bit as well. Like
less is more. Yeah.
Yeah, less is more.
For all you young producers out there, remember that less is more.
Less is more, and you've got to make sure that everything that you've got in there deserves to be in there. So rather than having these big 30 track counts like I'd have before, it's now sort of coming down to more like 15. So maybe like half of the amount of layers that I had in before. And I think that definitely helps, sort of makes things cleaner and just better.
Cool.
Thirdly, one thing I do is work on individual hits. So rather, you can get too close to a song. So if you work on one song for hour after hour, you can get sort of what I call too close to it. We kind of lose perspective. So in order to take a break from that, I mean, it's good to take a proper break and walk away from your computer and go outside and get some fresh air. But if you want to continue working on your music but not that, maybe just work on individual hits. So take a snare sound and blend a few together and try and make something new, or work on like a synth patch away from the main project, and just give you some tools that when you do want to bring a hit in, you've got something that not only sounds great but it's also unique and yours. And also, yeah, probably coming back to that other point of getting space. I won't work on a tune every single day for 8 days or something like that, because you do get too close to it. It is good. You got to take a break and walk away from it, or else you do lose all perspective.
So it's better to do short bursts, maybe do a couple of hours on a tune.
That's how it works for me.
Try and get as much done as possible. Obviously, this is your opinion, but it's always good. It's always good to have a few different insights when it comes to production. So I'd say for all of you guys out there, if you haven't got amazing monitors, it is totally worth it. Maybe going into mixing studio just to be able to listen to your music differently. You can hire them by the hour. Maybe just pay for a couple of hours just so your ears can grow through that experience.
Attended mastering is another. Actually, that's a great point. Actually, if you want to get your tune mastered, get it done by a mastering studio in your town where you can do attended mastering, which basically means you go sit in on the session, and you can learn heaps. That's a really good tip actually. And you get to sit there, you get to hear your music on proper monitors in a properly acoustically treated room, but then you also get to sit with an engineer and watch what he does, and kind of usually, guys are pretty obliging. If you ask them what they're doing, they'll tell you all about it, and that's something how I learned a lot, is actually going in and sitting on different mastering sessions. So that's another one. Even if you're starting out and you're a bit intimidated about even using the gear in the studio, at least you can just go in there and ask questions and get that important ear training as well.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you, Al.
Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Don't forget, we still have the competition going for the TC Electronic Impact Twin. It is a beautiful little Firewire recording interface. If you don't know anything about it, want to learn more, I did a fairly in-depth review on it on the show a couple of weeks ago. You just go to theDSPproject.com. You'll see it there on the little list of episodes. If you want to win it though, just head down to theDSPproject.com/win, and there's all the details of how you need to enter it there. If you want to get Loop Masters samples, just use the code DSP10 to get 10% off the price of your order. And also, if you use Boxy, the video on your TV type software, we have an app there now too. So just search the DSP Project. It's completely free, so you can enjoy the DSP Project on Boxy. That is it for this week. Thank you very much, Al, for having me.
Thank you. Pleasure.
I'll see you next week. Yes, I'll try that again now.